Okay, hello, welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be trying out the Chestnut Pro by Chestnut. Now, for those long-time viewers of the channel, you will know that I've tried out a Chestnut product before. The first time it was the Chestnut Air, which I have right here. For a little size comparison, this is a monster. Now, I had a great time playing with and against this board. In terms of comparison of the two products, I think this is a little sleeker. You know, the packaging, let's be real. But for me personally, nothing can compare to a board of this magnitude. Look at the size of this bad boy. Now, if you're not familiar with Chestnut yet, they are an awesome company that designs these AI-powered boards, which allow you to play against the board itself. For instance, right now, I'm at home, I could play some online chess, but there is just something beautiful about playing over the board. Any of you who have ever played over the board tournaments will know it's such a different feeling to actually physically move the pieces. And I'm sure many of you have experienced a difference in just the ability to calculate when looking at physical pieces, because you're so used to this bird's eye view with simple piece iconography on chess.com, for instance. For me, you just can't beat playing over the board chess. And given that I fancy doing that right now, but unfortunately have no one to play with, we're going to give this Chestnut Pro a spin, because the wonderful people over at Chestnut sent me this massive board. I'm very excited. Let's go. Okay, I've brought you in a little closer here. You can see this control panel on the side. I'm just going to hold the power button. You see that light flicks red, and if we give it a second, there we go, a beautiful green. And just here you can see this flashing blue light, which lets it know that it's ready to pair. So now what I'm going to do is go on my phone, open the Chestnut app, click that Bluetooth button at the top, and just wait and listen. Beautiful little beep there, letting me know we are now paired to my phone. This camera angle is a little awkward, we're going to change it in a second. Now what we can do is select play game. We can decide which AI level we want, 1 to 8. I think I'm going to try and play number 5, just to see, you know, relatively middle, but a little on the harder side. We're going to have unlimited time here, so we're not worried about flagging. I'm going to play white because I cannot be bothered to move my chair or even turn the board around. And we're playing against the computer with a standard variant. You can play 960 on this, which is awesome. You can also play against your friends, but right now I'm doing the lonely demonstration. And then we're just going to click start game here, and it is all ready. So now when I move a piece, as I'm sure you can guess, we're going to start with E4 here. Not only does my phone immediately input that, but it tells me which move the engine wants to play. Now, that would kind of suck if you just had to look at your phone the whole time. That would kind of defeat the point of this. Instead, we're going to switch from this view and back up to see that there are these little LEDs embedded in the board. Look, on each square, it's entirely smooth. You cannot even see any outline of anything. But my perspective right here lets me know that the computer wants to play knight to c6. And after I do so, the LED switch off. It is now my move. Okay, so I've absolutely toasted the level 5 engine to the extent where it wasn't that entertaining for a video. So we've moved up to level 6. Apparently I underestimated myself. 6 out of 8 here. Now level 8 is really strong. I'd imagine 7 is also extremely strong. I'm hoping 6 is about my speed for a balanced, exciting game. So of course we're going to play E4, says it right here on the flippin' t-shirt, baby. And our opponent, okay, they do decide to play knight c6. I'm going to go for d4 here, claiming the full center. Knight c6 is a little unorthodox. They could play e6 maybe. They do choose to play e6. I think I've seen this system before somewhere. Is it the Nimzo or the like Williams maybe? Not entirely sure. I think, okay, it just can't be a bad idea to play knight f3, develop and defend the d pawn a little extra. We've got a nice claim to the center. Our opponent's certainly playing slightly passively with knight f6 here, okay. Now knight f6 kind of begs the question, is it a good idea to go for this kind of Alekhine's defense-esque e5, knight e5, c4, knight b6? It very much could be. We could claim a big fat center in doing so. Honestly, I think I might go for it. Or we could just play bishop d3 first and make a little bit less of a commitment. I think that's what I'll go for. I'm going to develop the pieces rather than getting too aggressive with the pawns just now. I'm not entirely sure how this engine is going to play. They play bishop e7, okay, very passive stuff. Kind of letting me build an attack here a little bit. Clearly they're going to be trying to castle kingside. I mean, I say clearly, you'd imagine. Let's go knight c3. Let's just keep some classical development. Both knights developed. Nice bishop, but again, the center is huge. And if you castle here, in fact, well, you play d5. Okay, hold on. d5 is interesting. I'm definitely going to play e5. We're going to claim a little extra space. Of course, with tempo, the knight's going to have to move. And you go to g4, wow. Okay, but namely it opens up this bishop with a beautiful view of h7, which is going to be just an indispensable tool for our attack if they do choose to castle kingside. But this is definitely weird. Knight g4 is definitely odd. I can play h3, knight h6 is effectively forced. I don't see another move. And then I can choose to take. Obviously with the bishop, bishop takes h6, g takes h6, trash the pawns, maybe play queen d2. I think probably it is a great idea to go for this. I kind of want to give the engine just one chance to castle kingside, although I think I'm trying to play a psychological game here, as if my opponent, you know, I'm anthropomorphizing the board here. Is there another useful idea rather than going for h3? Because if they castle, then, you know, h3, knight h6, that is going to be more disastrous. Queen e2 seems reasonable. I probably want to castle queenside. I could go kingside, but then again, if I go for this plan of h3, knight h6, bishop h6, and gh6, that opens the g file, and then rook g8, and you know, potentially some big attack down there. They break with f6, open everything up. I think I will go for h3 though. I'm interested to see, maybe the engine just sacks because they hate the idea of rather knight h6. Now they do, of course, go for knight h6. Okay, as we've been talking about, I can definitely take that. It would be kind of interesting to just play g4 and say, you know what, actually, instead of taking that, I'm going to rob you of the potential knight f5 move that is clearly how this knight wishes to improve itself. Yeah, I don't want to play against a pawn weakness. We're playing g4. I'm going to be super aggressive here with the, oh wow. Okay, knight b4. This knight's pretty caged right now. This knight's come forward. It seems a bit of a one-move threat, honestly. Like, you're threatening to take my bishop. I'd prefer if you didn't. Hopefully the ambiance of the boiler that's just clicked on isn't too disturbing. I may just take a small step back and play bishop e2 and then kick the knight. But in that time, you can definitely play the move c5. I definitely should have just taken that knight. g4 was so dumb. Okay, I am going to play bishop e2. Try and have some fun here. They do play c5, of course. I'm now going to kick this knight back with a3. Presumably it goes back to c6. They take. Oh, wow. Interesting. Okay, now we've got something dynamic going on. I take their knight, of course they take mine. Doesn't honestly seem like the worst thing in the world, but yeah, I think just taking that is going to be very clearly preferable. But we can take with the knight here, bring it a little more central, and I'm really thinking that f4, f5 is going to be... Okay, what on earth is wrong with this particular setting of the engine and its proclivity to allow just knights on the rim? What on earth? Now, we could go and just chop, take the knight on h6, take the knight on a6, and just play against the pawns. I don't want to do that. I like my bishops. I want to play f4, and I'll be damned if this stupid computer thinks it's going to stop me playing f4. Now, the only concern is bishop c5 at some point is going to be something to worry about, at least a little. Now, we're just going to start with it. I'd imagine bishop c5, and you know, I'm kind of thinking I want to castle kingside and go for a big attack. Okay, now they castle kingside. Very interesting. Clearly, because we now can't take the knight straight away and trash the pawns, I am thinking, can I play f5 straight away? Likely no. Hold on, did they have bishop h4? Am I trash at the game? Yeah, I think that was extremely dumb. Right, let's play bishop e3 here. I think they had bishop h4. I think I'd have had to move my king. I think I probably just made a fairly large mistake. Queen b6 here, what the hell? How ridiculous would it be? I'm just gonna do it. Knight f5. Knight f5 straight away. Now, are you gonna take on b2? Because I have not calculated this at all, I just trust it. The bishop comes here, that makes sense. But now what I can do is I can chop off that knight. I definitely think that the engine let me off the hook a little with bishop h4. But we can grab that pony with, and listen out, check. There we go, it makes a nice little noise when a check is given. Of course, the pawn now recaptures. Irreparable damage to the king side has been done, and I think trading that bishop is going to make a lot of sense. I'm not entirely sure I have much of a choice here. I mean, there's a threat of like d4 as well. Okay, we're going to get rid of this. My dark squares are clearly very weak. f4 is definitely a very dubious idea. Now, knight takes or queen takes is interesting. Knight takes does make a lot of sense, trying to bring the knight more central. I'm going to play queen d2 straight away. If you take on b2, I'm playing... What am I playing? Rook 8. Wait, hold on. They take on b2. Oh no, rook a2, they just go up there. I kind of, for some reason, thought I was trapping the queen. But rook a2, they can retreat back to b6, of course. Rook b1, you have to take on a3. This is what I wanted. I can't complain that I've got it. Let's play rook b1. I wanted a bit of a fist fight here with the engine, and it's precisely what seems to have happened. Queen takes a3 here. I think bishop d3 is appropriate here. Slight improvement of the bishop. If you choose to take with the knight, then the imbalance is going to... Wow, f6 is bold. The imbalance would be our knight versus their bishop, and I'm assuming their bishop's not amazing, given the current pawn structure. But the pawn comes here. Okay, what the hell? Do I take? I have genuinely no idea what's going on. We're going to take. We're trying to test stuff open here. I might castle kingside after the rook recap. Oh no, okay. I heard a check, I got very scared, but of course it's just them taking here. Taking with the pawn, taking with the queen. Presumably we take with the queen. Okay. Fine, nice. Now they decide to play rook f7 instead of taking. Of course, I want to play like g5 and really try and march through. So I'm damn well gonna do it, g5. This could be the most dubious game of chess you may ever watch, but at least it's hopefully entertaining. They want to play b6. Huh? How can that possibly be the priority right now? g6 on your forehead. You take? We take with check. Okay, now yeah, fine. That makes a lot of sense at this point. Not entirely sure they didn't originally do that. We take here with a nice little check. There we go. The king has got to go under the pawn, preventing any promotion shenanigans. Am I not winning here? I will cry if I'm not winning here. Right, of course we start with rook g1. They play bishop b7, most likely, in order to allow the rook to defend potential, or okay, bishop d7, but at least lifting the bishop up, stopping the threat of rook g8. Hold on, do we have queen d4? We pin the rook, you can't bring the king to defend it. Your bishop's a light square bishop. You play rook f8, we can play rook g8. You have to take. Oh no, hold. Yeah, we promote, take, and then pick up the rook. But then you take my knight? No, because the queen still defends the knight. So queen d4, probably they have to play queen queen e7 rather. Which I guess is just fine, that's annoying. I could play queen g3. Hold on, how do you defend that? Queen g3. I'm coming down the g file, baby. There's a threat of queen g8. There's also a threat. How on earth does that work? They play queen f8. Yeah, queen g7 and queen g8 were both threats, but the queen comes back and guards both, of course. Okay, unfortunately, as engines tend to do, it's found the best defense. So I think we are just going to lose that pawn. I still don't think we're like, you know, lost really. What's the material like? Okay, we have a clear deficit of pawns. We're probably going to be down 2 pawns because I don't really see how we defend the pawn on h7. So I think I'm just going to play knight e2 because my knight has no prospects from c3. And I kind of want to dance around a bit. Maybe knight d4, knight f3, knight, I don't know, e5. Engine plays queen f7, okay. Also, by the way, something I just noticed now, that knight e2 was actually necessary to defend f4, which was completely a fluke. I'll admit, I can admit that. This rook is doing nothing, the pawn on b6 is so annoying. I could play maybe rook b3, come up and over, at least get out to f3, just to add a bit of security to the pawn and then maybe dance with the knight. I'm just thinking rook b4 straight away doing, you know, adding security to the pawn allows maybe a5, although we could take the pawn there. I just don't want that pawn start moving with tempo. I think that's going to be a huge threat of promotion. I'm going to play rook b3. I think rook b3 is reasonable. I think giving me an extra dimension to play with that rook makes a whole lot of sense. They decide to go rook c8. Honestly, now that the rook has vacated its defense of the a pawn, I think I might play rook a3. Give that pawn a little tickle. The thing is as well, if you play rook takes here, you're going to lose because that rook is tied to defending. They do play a5 here. Oh, yeah, okay. Obviously that makes sense. But sorry, no, what I was thinking was that we play rook b3 again. And I know I mentioned luring these pawns forward might not be a great idea and it could backfire. They played b5. Okay, hold on. Have I achieved anything here? This may be genuinely the worst set of moves. I've just oscillated and let them make progress. That was so ill thought through. Do I have rook c3 though? Hold on. Rook c3, you take here, queen g8, promote with mate, so you can't take, and if you can't take, maybe we can slide in. I don't see a good reason not to play it. That rook has to stay attached to g8. Now, can they take the pawn? Okay, yeah, they come across, fine. But this does give me maybe rook c7. Hold on, we're definitely infiltrating here. I think this oscillation was completely inane. I think it was just dumb. I think we probably could have gone for this earlier. But rook c7 here, I mean, surely. And I mean, we're at least applying disgusting amounts of pressure. That rook, which was doing nothing on b1, threatening the whole, a7, b6 setup, is now arguably my best piece. They take with the king, finally, which is a little annoying, but I don't think I was ever holding on to that. But now I'm thinking, like, there are freaky ideas where the queen's held to the bishop, for instance. So now the mobility of this knight's back in question, because let's say we play knight d4, for instance, looking to bounce around, get the knight to e5. Knight d4, if you play rook takes my pawn, I can take your bishop, because after the queen takes, the queen's overworked and we get to take the rook on f4. Okay, I'm going knight d4 here. I think this is an improving move. I think probably we have ideas like knight f3 and knight to e5, or maybe knight c6, knight e5. They play, oh no. Okay, admittedly didn't think about that. That's extremely scary. All their major pieces are staring at me right now. Oh, that's so scary. I think I'm gonna have to take. I mean, if I let them take, I'm cooked. We of course have to take here. I don't think, you can't take with the rook straight away. Our queen just defends that. Actually, maybe I'm b4. What? What? This is insane. What kind of human could possibly play b4 in this position? In fact, I guess it makes sense. I just mean the idea to play e5 first, hang that pawn. I mean, I was initially scared, but it seems like there's all sorts of good stuff going on. I could maybe play king d2, just unpin, threaten to take that rook, and we still have huge pressure down this flipping g-file. I think likely, the only problem is they can probably come into, let's say, f2. I think I will just unpin, threaten to take this rook, because there's so much going on here in terms of the pin enacted by the rook, the major pressure down the g-file, meaning that there are probably going to be mate threats. Let's say this rook moves at some point so that it's not defending g6 anymore. Then we might be threatening to, for instance, take the bishop, sacrificing our rook, draw the queen away, then play queen g6, the king moves, and then queen h6. I don't know. Or there might be queen h7 in that line. I don't know. I'm entirely sure. For sure, I want to unpin here, though. We'll put in the king on the d file. The question is d1 or d2. D2 for some reason intuitively seems to make sense, but then actually rook f2. I am just a bit scared, though. I don't know. I feel like I'm just trusting. Hold on. Can I just play e6? We attack the queen, of course. The thing is, I didn't think that was a fork initially because we play e6 and of course the pawn's still pinned. But our rook, look at that rook on c7 is the best piece I've ever seen. e6, if you take the bishop, you lose your queen. If you take the queen, knight takes and you lose your queen. So e6, you have to take with a rook. Then presumably knight takes. We win some material there. I feel like cashing in there might actually be a really good idea. You know what? I'm pretty convinced. e6. We're going for e6. Looks very scary. My king looks very weak. I think we can run with the king. Oh my lord, the rook e7. I can't take the queen because it's still pinned. Oh, but I'll just take the bishop. Rook takes the bishop, huh? If you take with the rook, your queen hangs because it's no longer pinned. So rook takes bishop. Wait, but then can you take with check? And after I play knight takes, you can take my rook? This game is so complicated. This is so complicated. I don't know if I can take that bishop. Rook takes, you get to take my pawn with check, with the rook, and then if I play knight takes, you get to recapture my rook. And I feel like that all dissolves in something that I'm not best pleased with. However, I can still play like just king d2, right? Now I am threatening to take your queen. They take with the rook, okay. Hold on, no, this makes sense. But now, we just take that rook. What the hell is happening? We've got to take the rook. Okay, I think e6 might have been done. Maybe I should have gone for king d2 first. We're taking this rook though. And the problem is, there are still huge problems that your queen's attached to down the g-file. The queen decides to take it. Oh, I guess the queen still holds and the rook holds g7. Okay, honestly, got a bit lucky there. I think we've weathered the storm a little and we've come out. Wait, am I not even out material? This game is such a mess. What the hell happens now? My king feels so vulnerable. Like just queen e2 maybe as a threat. Play king c1, just run away. I could also play rook e1. Ooh, actually. Rook e1, because if queen takes, rook takes, king takes, your bishop's left pinned. I like that. Removing the check opportunities so you can't take. That looks like pressure to me. Rook e1. I think we're good. There's no check. There is a, that's a beep. Where the hell's the, oh, they take. But we take. That bishop is left pinned, baby. Take my queen. See what happens. Oh, baby. We take with the king, of course. And whatever you do here, there's no way these pawns are promoting. I've got a rook there. That rook on c7 is the best piece. We pick up this bishop, finally, and somehow this has dissolved into a complete win. Here, we just go behind the pawn, right? And then they push. What if we go behind that one? They push, I take, push again, I go back. Okay, we're gonna go behind the B pawn here. I don't know if that's that accurate, but I mean, you can keep pushing if you'd like. Or they push the pawn, but then they just take, of course. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. Hell yeah, they take, and we can of course bring the rook back, take that pawn, and this is a clear win against the level 6 engine. I say clear, that was anything but clear in terms of, okay, one sec, let's try and be nice and accurate. Rook here. Yeah, anything but clear in terms of how I navigated that. I think an analysis is going to show that that was dubious beyond belief, but hopefully I just weathered the storm effectively. Let's bring our king in. I'd imagine but the thing is, level 6 is pretty strong. I don't know exactly what elo, but it's not like I just kept giving away winning chances and then the engine just kept handing it back to me, because there's no way level 6 would do that. The king comes across. We're just going to go all the way across here. Keep the king pin back. Okay, admittedly this is a little tedious. Chestnut, if you're watching, you need to add a resign feature. But of course, you know, that makes no sense. Engines never resign. We could just end the game here and know within our hearts that we've won, but I think I need this machine to feel my wrath. I think I need to actually have the satisfaction of delivering the mate. Bring the king up. Who cares about taking that pawn? Yeah, they bring the king across, but of course we're going to play the nice and accurate. Actually, is it nice and accurate? We'll play king here. They're going to then waste the move with the pawn, and then we make a waiting move with the rook, and it's just GG. Walk them down. There we go. The waiting move here. We make a nice little waiting move with the rook. If you step across this way, it is checkmate on the back rank. If you go this way, we chase you down with the king. Here we go. Kind of putting an insane amount of thinking time into these moves here. But king b8, king c6, king a8, king b6, and of course after the king comes back to b8, and the engine's doing a lot of thinking here for some reason. King b6, king b8, and rook to the back rank for a nice classical checkmate pattern. The only legal move, hurry up and make it, you stupid board. There we go, and let's listen for that beep. Win, baby! Let's go analyze that game. Okay, so another cool thing about Chestnut is that after you play, you can immediately export the game to a chess.com analysis board or Lichess analysis board if you so prefer to have a little analyze. Now, that is precisely what I've done here. 84.2% accuracy is significantly more accurate than I anticipated based on how sharp that game was. Honestly, I thought I was losing quite badly at some points, but it seems that the most I was ever losing, okay, apparently Queen G3 was a blunder. I guess we'll look at that, but the most I was ever losing was roughly -1. This is fairly trivial, so I think the mistakes made in this game were more missed wins and me failing to really claim advantage that I could have, rather than abject blunders, although apparently that Queen G3 move was an abject blunder. Let's go through the game. I'm not going to spend ages, this is already quite a long video. We're going to rush through the opening a little bit just because, I mean, it's all just reasonable, but not that accurate. A bunch of inaccuracies. I could have played e5 earlier, but I kind of thought if I played e5 this early, they might be able to play d6, and then eventually sort of chop away at the head of that little pawn chain in the center. So I kind of preferred to wait for them to play d5, then play e5 myself, kicking the knight back, and then of course taking this knight was the best move. That was pretty much doubtlessly the case. However, I wanted to start a bit more of a scrap than just creating a pawn weakness and then trying to exploit it. I mean, the engine here, if we go on the analysis, after takes and g takes, yeah, the best move is to castle kingside, which just, I mean, I don't like doing that, or apparently Queen d2 is also good. I wanted to attack their king, and I thought, you know what, we're gonna instead play g4 here, keep that knight looking pretty shambolic, not let it into f5, and eventually be threatening g5 at some point. The knight comes here, bishop e2 is the best move, preserving the bishop, a3 a little inaccurate, taking the knight was also a little inaccurate. Oh, I guess knight b5 and bouncing back in might have made some sense, because this knight was a little misplaced in terms of where it could go based on this sharp, thorny pawn center. Still a reasonable move though, as I say. And then yeah, this was the point at which I thought, okay, hold on, why on earth is this engine putting both of the knights on the rim? It would have definitely been a reasonable idea to go for takes here. And then after this, we would have had knight c6 actually, which I didn't see, because after they move the queen, we can take the bishop, they recapture, and then at this point, we can even take the knight here, pawn takes, and they have really trashed pawns, and we can probably engineer this knight to be better than this bishop in the endgame, especially with this kind of semi-fixed pawn structure here. You know, queen d4 blockading, centralizing the queen, getting on dark squares. Maybe we play this at some point. We bounce around with the knight, try and, you know, whack it on one of these two squares somehow. You know, that could have easily been a way that we'd gone and played the game. Instead, I decided to turn that down and play f4. Clearly a missed win because we had that option, and then they castle. So at this point, I played bishop to e3, which was a missed win because we actually had, if we go back, g5 here, the knight comes in. We can then take that knight, undermining this pawn, to then capture it in the center and just be up a pawn, you know, queen takes, queen c7, queen f3, eventually some h4, h5 probably. Then we can move the bishop, castle, and have a great game. Instead, I went for bishop e3. They play queen here, which was a blunder, although... Oh, we had g5 here. Because if the knight comes to f5 now, we take with tempo on the queen, of course, and tempo on this bishop, such that if you take here, we take the bishop, the king moves, and are just up a billion points of material. So g5 there would have been very nice because the knight just has no moves. Instead, I think I rushed knight f5 a little bit, but I mean, it was still a reasonable move, obviously a missed win. But in and of itself, if that tactic hadn't been viable, this would definitely still be reasonable because after the bishop comes here, I can take the knight, trash the pawns in front of the king, and trashing these pawns now is much more meaningful given that the king's actually castled here. And I decided to take the bishop, which was apparently a mistake. It wanted knight a4, which I didn't consider at all. Knight a4, queen a5. We have b4. Jesus. And after the queen takes here, we take this with the bishop? No, because then the knight takes. We take it with the pawn. Okay, clearly a bit of a mess, although we do get a bishop pair there. I didn't see that line, instead just decided to take the bishop because I was very scared of all the problems down the dark squares. They take with the knight, which is obviously a nice chance to redeem that knight for being on the rim. I go queen d2, missing out on maybe some b4 idea with tempo. They decide to take. Oh, actually, b4 apparently would have stopped them taking with tempo. Knight e4, takes. I didn't love this position. I briefly thought about this position, not this exact one, but I thought about the knight coming in here and me trading. I just think they have rook d8 quite quickly. My king's not going to be safe. You know, I can't castle this way. It wants queen c1 and then bishop d7 and then c4 and eventually play c5 probably. That's kind of freaky, but I didn't really love it. Instead, I allowed them to take here. Rook b1, they took here. Bishop d3, I took here. A whole lot of inaccuracies. Knight takes, queen takes is best. Then g5 is best. And I think from here on out, it was more accurate than not. Because g6 here, they take, I decide to take here. We open our g file, getting the rook there. Okay, this is good. Playing rook g1, of course, a great move. We're threatening this, just a simple checkmating idea. So they play bishop d7. They should have played bishop b7. It probably would have made sense to eventually push this and maybe have some domain down these light squares here. Whereas from d7, I mean, what are you really looking at? But they do go for bishop d7. I then play queen to g3, which was a blunder. That was the blunder. I mean, they did have queen f8, which I kind of missed. I thought, you know, queen g3, we're going to be threatening mate on here. We're going to be threatening promotion here. But instead in this position, I could have played knight d5, which somehow is only best, not brilliant. The reason for this is after they take, we play rook g8, and if they take here, then we promote, they have to take, we take this with check, and then eventually recapture the queen. Absolutely ridiculous stuff. Take the queen, they take here, we have the rook. It's a barely winning endgame anyway, because our pawns are terrible and they've got connected pawns here. So the fact that I didn't see that, I mean, also, by the way, after this, we've got to realize that this is a checkmate. But yeah, not seeing this, I mean, I don't know how this isn't a brilliant move. I don't blame myself. Queen g3 clearly makes some sense. These two knight moves were just invisible to me, I'll be completely real. So queen g3, blunder, but honestly sets up the pressure for the rest of the game. That was so nice. Knight e2 here, basically accidentally defending the pawn because my genuinely, you know, the only thought in my head was knight here, knight d4, knight f3, then knight to e5. We hit this. We have maybe forking ideas here. You know what I mean? I thought, let's improve this knight. Coincidentally and very luckily, defending my f-pawn, had I let that fall, I would have been toast. They then bring the queen up. Rook b3, allowing the rook to potentially have mobility over here. And that idea of rook c3, I go over here. It's clearly good. It doesn't make much sense to be threatening this pawn. They can just push it. Rook b3 here, somehow the best. Okay, I thought this was also going to be just good because I genuinely missed the idea of b5 is defended by the bishop. I thought they might have to try to, you know, defend this pawn with the rook behind and then get a little more, you know, inactive. Oh, we have rook b6 there anyway, because if you take... Oh, that's disgusting. Or in fact, by the way, we could promote to a rook there, here, and then make like this. Okay, so, I mean, that was just... That would have been brilliant. That was a bit of a misapprehension, but they do play this. The pawn's defended. I then find rook c3, the best move, and after the rook moves, rook c7. We now have our defining setup for the rest of the game, where this rook is gorgeous. The queen and the rook are also gorgeous. I need to do a bit of improvement for this knight. The king eventually takes the pawn. The knight comes into d4, best move. And I've got ideas of maybe even knight c6 and knight here because of the pin enacted here. My opponent is just so vulnerable along the 7th rank to this rook on c7, and they decide to play a5, or rather e5, sorry, which I was extremely scared of because, I mean, look at the state of this. My king isn't exactly the safest piece itself. However, we can just take, and you can't take. My queen is in a beautiful position. They have to move, and I can play... Okay, so e6 was a mistake, somehow. They did have rook here, although... Hold on. If the evaluation is 2.2, after rook here, the best move, why is the evaluation then 4.3? I think this is something to do with the engine depth and it's not quite seeing this. I think this is a really good move. Applying pressure to both the pieces that are pinned to the king, like, come on. You can't take with the bishop because your queen hangs. If you take with one of the rooks, then we can take with the knight. There are always problems where your queen and rook has to probably be defending some kind of mate threat along all of these squares on g6, g7, and g8. This was more of a kind of trust the process, keep applying the pressure move. They do go rook here. I was right in saying that rook takes this would have been a terrible idea because after check, we take with the knight. That would have been a brilliant move, by the way, from our opponent. We take with the knight, queen takes, and eventually they can just recapture here with the queen holding this and the rook holding g7. And, you know, after the king moves, they're just left up pawns. Still interesting, but definitely a bad idea. Instead, king d2, best move, because if the rook takes, we can take like this. If the bishop takes, by the way, I don't believe I actually said this out loud or even necessarily calculated it properly. There was half a thought in my head that if the bishop takes, we just take with the rook, queen takes here, and then there's a threat of mate on g8, and we can simply remove the defender, because if the queen takes to defend g8, then g7 is going to be left nice and loose. So this whole pressure down the g-file is just so disgusting. But yeah, the engine does take with the rook. We then take, and after the queen takes, I find rook e1. Lovely stuff. Although I did think that the computer made it a little easy by just accepting this, because then we do simplify completely into the endgame where the bishop's left pinned. We can take it, and you're not promoting anything. The rest is trivial. Another move that they could have gone for would have been something like queen f7, but then at that point we can just remove this here. Queen takes, and then queen g4. Oh, that's disgusting. That's so nasty. Look at that for a brilliant move. Because if you take here, of course, then we can take, and after the king moves, we can recapture. If you don't take, we're just going to be taking this and winning your queen. And somehow, you don't have a check. Because this check, again, just leaves the bishop pinned. These checks are guarded. That's so filthy. But also, okay, we could go for queen d3 here. And then after, like, king g8, you know, we can even take on d5 with check and then eventually win this bishop. The pressure is just immense here. And just this rook, once it got to c7, just sat there exerting the most pressure, and then eventually was the beautiful piece that won the game. What a beautiful piece. And then promoting with, or not promoting rather, but mating with relative ease. Although somehow, did that just flash the... Damn, I thought king e6 was the most accurate move. Apparently... Wait, it was. Come on, man. That was precise technique. Why is it only giving me an excellent move? We get the checkmate. Not the most accurate game, but hopefully a very entertaining one with some freaky ideas as well. Exploiting the 7th rank and the G file, which was so weak. Awesome stuff. I think Chestnut make genuinely awesome products. Obviously, this is you know, not sponsored video, but I do get commission for every one of you who buys something through the link, so maybe go and do that, please, for me. Thank you. Only, of course, if you have the disposable income and passion for chess. But I genuinely do think this is a really, really cool product. It's sleek, it's nice, it's big, it's fun to play with, it's easy to use. Of course, there is the argument that it's a little over-engineered. I mean, like, you can play chess online, you can also play chess over the board, but I'm really happy that I've got one of these. I just think it's really cool. So the main purpose of this video was to entertain the majority of the Will Taylor Chess fan base. But any of you who did like what you saw and fancy getting one of yourself, I would really appreciate if you use my link in the description. That would really help support the channel. Also, Hikaru has just become the global ambassador for Chestnut, I think. So that means me and Hikaru are colleagues, I think. Yeah, technically now I think we're actually equals in the chess world. Anyway, thanks so much for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. If you like this kind of video with the setup, with the board UI, I could definitely make more videos like this. But yeah, this Chestnut Pro is sick. All the Chestnut products are sick. Yeah, as I say, go to their website, check them out. If there's anything you like, use my code, because then I get some money. Thank you. See you in the next one. Goodbye.